This is Florida Gulf Coast University.
So I'm going to read you just a short story. I start out with a poem from Elizabeth Bishop, and I dreamed of Florida. The state with the prettiest name, the state that floats in brackish water, held together by mangrove roots that bear, while living, oysters in clusters. Elizabeth Bishop's poem, Florida. When I first read this poem, I was in high school and ready to take my first trip to Florida to visit my uncle in Miami. I was stunned by Bishop's images of the long S-shaped birds and enormous turtles, helpless and mild. And I anticipated tropical scenery very different from what I'd grown up with in St. Louis. I wasn't disappointed. As my parents and I drove south on US 1, that's the only way to get here, the shoreline of the Atlantic Ocean along the Florida coast, endlessly fascinated by the orange and gold sunrises, the gracefully arching palm trees, the rolling tides, and the parade of oddly long-lived birds, breathtaking, panoramic, stirring. During the visit, I had my first experience snorkeling at Pennycamp Coral Reef. I still lobster there with my friend Ellie Bunting. My heart pounded with excitement as we headed out from Gilbert's Marina at dawn in a strong offshore breeze. The boat rocked as I slid into the cool water like a wiki-watching mermaid. I floated on the surface, my breath strong and steady, and I surveyed the explosion of color from the fish that hovered around the coral reefs. I never wanted to leave. But I had to go home at the end of this vacation, only to return years later when my parents decided to move to Fort Myers and I had the chance to visit them. Then I saw my first Southwest Florida beach. That was over 25 years ago, when Fort Myers Beach still had a swing bridge, sand dunes, and very little traffic. The island was quiet and quaint, nothing past the Lani Kai, and the water a sight to behold, the Gulf of Mexico. Water a soft blue, almost aquamarine, and sand a dazzling white, almost too bright to look at in the blinding summer sun. I would spend almost the entire day floating on a raft in the warm water, staring up at the sun, enjoying the feel of the heat and salt on my skin. Fish swam around me and pelicans circled overhead as I daydreamed about a time when I could live in Florida year-round. And it happened. I now live in Pine Island full-time. I teach, I write mysteries, I teach creative writing, and at every opportunity I canoe and I swim and I snorkel in the Gulf, and I never tire of living on the coast. Florida is truly a state of mind. It's a tropical dream. It's a place to live where I can be connected to nature through every outdoor activity. And like Elizabeth Bishop, who lived in Key West during the Hemingway years in the 30s, I don't want to see Florida become, as she calls it, the poorest postcard of itself by not protecting its natural habitat. We can only do that by not forgetting that we are responsible for our environment and for the next generation ready to take their first trip to Florida and never want to leave. Thank you.
When I was 10, my parents moved our family from North Carolina, the only home I had ever known, down to the small town of Brooksville, Florida. The long drive through Georgia in the moving truck incited in me a childish anticipation of the adventures that lay ahead. I imagined scenes from Flipper and Hawaii 5-0, the only Florida I ever knew. When we arrived, my hopes and dreams were crushed. Cookie-cutter houses sat in the middle of what to me was the largest sandbox in the world. Grass might have grown on the land at one point, but not anymore. I was instantly homesick. I longed for North Carolina, for the colors of the trees and the cool gusts that rustled the branches. Rain came 2 days after we arrived. After the hardest of the rain hit, the wind began to blow, and with it came the scent of salt. The perfumed breeze delivered my first whiff of ocean, and all my senses came alive. I begged my father to drive me We got into our Dodge and headed west. A few dead ends and U-turns, and at my mother's insistence, one stop for directions, found us following a long two-lane road into what felt like a trap. There were no pull-offs in sight, and caution alligator signs every quarter mile added to our fear of the unknown. Then, as if transported through time, we were led out of the sawgrass-lined asphalt onto an ancient, unspoiled stretch of beach with the whitest sand I had ever seen. The sun reflected off of a calm gulf, making a mirror of its surface. The bright reflection hit our eyes, causing my father to slam on the brakes and curse under his breath. He navigated into a narrow parking spot in the crude lot, trying to avoid a puddle that potentially hid a massive pothole. "Everyone out and don't hit the cars next to us," he shouted as he turned off the engine, not noticing that we were all alone. We filed out in silence, afraid to say anything, and in awe of the natural wonder we had stumbled upon. We took 2 folding chairs and a bag of towels from the trunk and walked towards the silken sand, passing a sign that said Pine Island Preserve. I walked the fastest, heading straight for the azure water, pulled to it like a compass needle to magnetic north. The air had warmed since the shower, and I anticipated the chill of the Gulf water. I shed my shoes and my clothing and dashed boldly in. The water was warm. I slowed, trying not to disturb the sand with my feet. Glints of silver darted back and forth, becoming large schools of baby fish as my eyes adjusted. I saw the occasional crab scurry when I moved small patches of slick seaweed with my toes. My mother yelled my name and pointed away from shore. 4 dolphins jumped and played, and in my naivete, I waited for one of them to walk on its tail backwards across the water. We lived in the sandbox a few months before my parents found a small place 20 miles away on a human-made island in Weeki Wachee Springs. There, Florida's Gulf Coast stole my heart forever from the mountains of my birth. From the banks of the Weeki Wachee River, I witnessed a manatee give birth to her calf and an alligator in a death spin. I spent lazy Saturdays fishing with Walter, the crane that thought he was a human. I boated with my family from the river into the Gulf to fish and look for dolphins. We drove south to Tampa and fished off the Sunshine Skyway, the grandest bridge I have ever crossed. We explored Clearwater, Indian Rocks, Dunedin, and St. Petersburg. The Gulf looked bluer at each new shoreline and seemed to expand forever. My imagination flourished with thoughts of pirates, whales, krakens, and mermaids. In fact, I was going to be a mermaid when I grew up. Weeki Wachee Springs was home to many young ladies and men over the years who donned tails and performed underwater as mermaids and mermen for the tourists. I practiced every chance I got, swimming with my legs tied as far as I could go without breathing. I was almost old enough to attend Weeki Wachee summer training camp for girls when my father told us we were going back to North Carolina. My grandfather was ill. We left 2 weeks later, none of us wanting to go. I was almost 12. I remember, as I grew, I remember fondly those years along the shores of the Gulf and often refer to those short years as my childhood. My family always spoke of moving back. My mother insisted after my brother and I moved out, she and my father would return. She passed away before she could do that, but included in her eulogy was a poem that I wrote that placed her on the shores of Pine Island. Her ashes were scattered off the Sunshine Skyway, the grandest bridge she had ever crossed. I returned home to my childhood at 30 with children of my own. I'm teaching them that the Gulf is a world unto itself. If they intend to show their children the white beaches and wild dolphins, it's up to each of us to keep the Gulf and her treasures unspoiled. When my ashes are released, sunshine skyway. I want to drift on gentle breezes down into crystal blue waters and become the mermaid of my dreams.
Why do I love Florida? It's mostly because I'm a pantheist. Like the moguls, I worship the sky, blue heaven that floats above me. Like Whitman, I worship each leaf of the St. Augustine grass, each blade a bright flag of its tropical world's disposition. Like Dickinson, I worship the black racers along the dirt road I run most afternoons, those narrow fellows pouring their oily bodies into the weeds that line my journey west, which is the orientation Thoreau argued for, the direction he walked each day from his shack at Walden Pond, as he looked for that particular oak tree, the one whose branches filled with the music of God, which is a chorus of the natural world, a kinship with tree, flower, root, and earth, the hymn shriek of the osprey alighting from the slash pine outside my window last Saturday. Yes, God in everything, manifest in cypress dome or pine barren, in sawgrass or slough, in the summer cumuli that blacken to nimbus and bring the hard rain that is itself the only true baptism, that holy hard rain which cleanses this despoiled paradise, which roars into ditches and lakes that disperse and collect, but do not wash away